The Gospel of John, chapter 9, presents one of the deepest stories about what human eyes are able to see and what only a heart illuminated by God can understand. It is the story of a man who was born without ever seeing the light of day, but who, after encountering Jesus, began to see far more than the people around him. He received sight in his eyes, but he also received something even more precious, sight within his soul. While many looked at Jesus and remained spiritually blind, this man who had spent his entire life in darkness recognized before him the true light of the world. Imagine for a moment what this man's life must have been like. From birth, he had never looked upon his mother's face. He had never known the blue of the sky, the brightness of the sun upon the water, the colors of flowers, or the movement of people through the streets of Jerusalem. He knew the world through sounds, smells, touch, and the descriptions others gave him. He depended on people's help to move from one place to another, and because of the limitations and customs of his time, he probably spent much of his life begging for alms. Every day, he heard footsteps passing before him. Some were hurried, while others were slow. Some people placed small coins into his hands. Others changed their path and pretended not to notice his presence. Perhaps he recognized the people of the city by their voices, by the way they walked, or by the sound of their clothing. Perhaps he had learned to recognize the compassion of some and the contempt of others simply by the way they breathed as they approached him. To many people, this man was not known by his name. He was simply the blind man. His identity had been reduced to his condition. People did not see his dreams, his feelings, or his dignity. They saw only what was missing from his body. In the eyes of society, he had become a symbol of suffering, poverty, and dependence. It was in this setting that Jesus passed by him. The disciples also saw the man, but their first reaction was not compassion. They looked at his blindness and raised a religious question. They asked Jesus, "Teacher, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Their question revealed a common belief of that time. Many people imagined that all physical suffering was the direct result of a particular sin. When someone faced a serious illness, a tragedy, or a limitation from birth, people immediately searched for someone to blame. In their minds, pain had to be explained as punishment. Perhaps this man was used to hearing comments like these. Perhaps throughout his entire life, he had heard people discussing whether his blindness was his fault, his parents' fault, or the result of some hidden sin in his family. Imagine the weight of growing up believing that your very existence was some kind of punishment. Imagine the pain of hearing others talk about your life as though you were not even there. But Jesus did not allow this man's story to be defined by guilt. The Lord answered his disciples, "Neither this man nor his parents sinned. This happened so that the works of God might be displayed in his life." Jesus was not saying that this man or his parents had never sinned, because every human being needs the grace of God. What Christ was teaching was that the man's blindness could not be used as evidence of a specific condemnation. His pain should not be turned into an accusation. God had not abandoned this man. On the contrary, on that day, his life would become a testimony of divine mercy and power. This answer from Jesus completely changes the way we should look at suffering. There are moments when we want to find an immediate explanation for everything that happens. When we face a loss, an illness, a disappointment, or a closed door, we may begin to ask, "What did I do to deserve this? Why did God allow it? Am I being punished?" Not every form of suffering can be explained with simple answers. There are pains whose reasons remain hidden for a long time. But John 9 teaches us that God can enter a story marked by darkness and transform it into a manifestation of His glory. What appears to be only a limitation can become the setting for an encounter with Christ. What seems like the end can become the beginning of a testimony. Jesus then declared, "While I am in the world, I am the light of the world." This statement was especially powerful before a man who had never seen any kind of light. Christ was not speaking only about physical light that illuminates a path. He was speaking about the light that overcomes the darkness of the soul, reveals the truth, destroys lies, and leads human beings back to God. Then Jesus spat on the ground, made mud with his saliva, and placed it on the man's eyes. Afterward he said, "Go and wash in the pool of Siloam." This action may seem strange to us, but it carried a profound message. The same God who in the beginning formed man from the dust of the earth was once again touching the clay to perform a work of restoration. Jesus could have healed the man with a single word. He could have commanded his eyes to open immediately, but he chose to lead him through a path of faith and obedience. The man felt the mud on his eyes and heard the command of Jesus. Up to that moment, he had never seen the face of the one speaking to him. He did not know what Christ looked like. All he had was the voice of the Lord and a direction: go to the pool of Siloam and wash. Perhaps someone helped him reach the pool. Perhaps he walked slowly, leaning on a staff, guided by sounds and walls. People passing by may have laughed when they saw him with mud on his eyes. Some may have asked, "Where are you going?" And perhaps he answered, "A man called Jesus put mud on my eyes and told me to wash in the pool." Maybe someone said, "Do you really believe that will change anything?" But the man kept walking. There are moments when faith reveals itself exactly like this, not as visible certainty, but as obedience to the voice of God. The man was still blind when he began walking. His eyes had not changed when he decided to obey. He could have wiped the mud from his face and returned to the place where he usually begged. He could have thought that nothing would happen. Yet he went. When he arrived at the pool, he bent over the water and began to wash his eyes. The mud began to dissolve. The water ran down his face. Then, for the first time in his entire life, the darkness disappeared. Perhaps the first thing he saw was the brightness of the water. Perhaps he looked at his own hands, the hands that had touched walls and held coins, but which he had never seen. Perhaps he lifted his eyes and saw the sky. Perhaps he wept when he realized that even tears had a shine. The world, which he had known only through sound, now had colors, shapes, and movement. He saw people. He saw buildings. He saw the light. Everything was new. Every detail was a miracle. The man returned to the place where he lived, but now he no longer needed to be guided. He walked with his own eyes open. The neighbors and those who knew him became confused. Some asked, "Isn't this the man who used to sit and beg?" Others answered, "It is him." But some said, "It cannot be. It is only someone who looks like him." Then the man himself declared, "I am the man." This small statement carries extraordinary strength. He was affirming that he was still the same person, but his life had been completely transformed. He was not an imitation, nor was he someone else. He was the man everyone had known as blind, but now he could see. They asked him, "How were your eyes opened?" He answered, "The man called Jesus made mud, put it on my eyes, and told me to go to the pool of Siloam and wash. I went, I washed, and now I can see." At that point, the man may not yet have fully understood who Jesus was. He only knew what Christ had done. His testimony was simple and direct. He had no religious training. He could not answer every question, but no one could deny his experience. We often think we need to understand every mystery of faith before speaking about God. Yet a sincere testimony carries a power that no argument can erase. The man was saying, in other words, "I cannot explain everything, but I know that I was blind, and now I can see." Then they took him to the Pharisees, the religious leaders of that time. The healing had taken place on the Sabbath, the day of rest for the Jewish people. Instead of rejoicing because a man who had never seen could now see, The Pharisees began to argue about whether Jesus had broken the Sabbath rules by making mud and performing the healing. They asked once again how everything had happened. The man told the same story. "He put mud on my eyes. I washed and now I can see." Some Pharisees said, "This man cannot be from God because he does not keep the Sabbath in the proper way." Others, however, asked, "How could a sinner perform signs like this?" There was division among them. This is one of the strongest contrasts in the passage. The man who had been physically blind was beginning to see not only with his eyes, but also spiritually. Meanwhile, the religious leaders who believed they knew the truth were becoming increasingly blind to the presence of God. They knew the scriptures, mastered traditions, and held positions of authority. Yet, when the miracle happened before them, they chose to protect their interpretations rather than recognize the work of God. Religion had become a barrier between them and the truth. They asked the man, "What do you say about the one who opened your eyes?" He answered, "He is a prophet." Notice how the man's understanding of Jesus was growing. First, he called Christ a man called Jesus. Then he recognized him as a prophet. His spiritual vision was being opened gradually. The Pharisees, however, refused to accept his testimony. They called the man's parents and asked, "Is this truly your son? Do you say that he was born blind? How then can he now see?" His parents confirmed, "We know that he is our son and that he was born blind, but we do not know how he can now see, nor do we know who opened his eyes. Ask him. He is old enough and can speak for himself." The parents answered this way because they were afraid of the religious authorities. There was already a threat that anyone who acknowledged Jesus as the Christ would be expelled from the community. They knew the truth about their son, but they feared the consequences of becoming involved. This detail reveals how fear can silence even those who have witnessed a work of God. Some people recognize the truth, but they are afraid of what others will think. They fear rejection, criticism, the loss of status or separation from certain groups. Therefore, they choose to remain silent. The healed man, however, did not allow fear to control him. The Pharisees called him again and said, "Give glory to God. We know that this man is a sinner." They wanted to force him to deny Jesus. They wanted him to accept their conclusion, even though that conclusion contradicted everything that had happened. It was then that he spoke one of the most well-known declarations in the entire passage. "Whether he is a sinner, I do not know. One thing I do know, I was blind, and now I see." What a powerful answer. He did not try to enter a complicated theological debate. He did not seek to please the religious leaders. He simply remained firm in what he knew. His life was proof that something extraordinary had happened. "I was blind, and now I see." This statement does not speak only about the man's physical eyes. It describes what happens to everyone who truly encounters Jesus. Before Christ, we can see the world around us and still remain spiritually blind. We may recognize faces, colors, roads, and landscapes, yet fail to perceive the purposes of God. We may possess knowledge, culture, intelligence, and experience, but still be unable to distinguish truth from appearances. Spiritual blindness happens when we look only at what is visible. It makes us believe that a person's value is found in appearance, possessions, or position. It leads us to judge the suffering of others without compassion. It causes us to see rules but not mercy, sins but not possibilities of restoration, problems but not the presence of God. The Pharisees had physical sight, but they did not recognize the light of the world standing before them. The man who had spent his entire life unable to see was beginning to understand who Jesus truly was. Angered by his answers, the leaders asked once more, "What did he do to you? How did he open your eyes?" The man answered courageously, "I have already told you, But you did not want to listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you also want to become his disciples?" When the Pharisees heard this, they insulted him. They said that they were disciples of Moses and that they did not know where Jesus came from. Then the man presented a simple and firm argument. "This is remarkable. You say that you do not know where he comes from, yet he opened my eyes. We know that God listens to those who fear him and do his will. No one has ever heard of someone opening the eyes of a man born blind. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing." The one who had once been seen as nothing more than a beggar was now teaching the religious teachers. The man who had depended on others to find his way was now pointing toward the truth. His spiritual vision was clearer than that of those who had spent their lives studying the law. Having no argument left, the Pharisees turned to insult and exclusion. They said, "You were born entirely in sin, and you dare to teach us?" Then they cast him out. After receiving healing, the man faced rejection. His new sight did not automatically make his life easier. By confessing what Jesus had done, he lost the acceptance of the religious community. Yet it was precisely in this moment of abandonment that Christ came to find him again. Jesus heard that they had cast the man out, so he went looking for him. This is one of the most moving parts of the story. When people rejected the one who had been healed, Jesus came to meet him. When the doors of religion were closed, the presence of the Savior drew near. Christ did not abandon the man after the miracle. He did not merely open his eyes and continue on his way. Jesus returned to complete the work. When he found him, Jesus asked, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" The man answered, "Who is he, Lord, so that I may believe in him?" Then Jesus said, "You have now seen him. He is the one speaking with you." For the first time, the man was able to look directly into the face of Jesus. Until that moment, he had known only the voice that had given him a command. Now his eyes looked upon the one who had healed him. Imagine the emotion of that moment. That face belonged to the one responsible for his new life. That voice was the same voice that had sent him to the pool. Standing before him was not only a prophet, not only a man called Jesus, but the Son of God. Then the man answered, "Lord, I believe," and he worshipped him. The healing was complete. His eyes had been opened at the pool, but his spiritual vision was fully illuminated at the feet of Christ. First, he knew Jesus as a man. Then he recognized him as a prophet. Finally, he acknowledged him as Lord. This is the work God desires to accomplish in our lives. It is not enough merely to receive blessings. We must know the one who blesses. It is not enough to experience deliverance, healing, open doors, and answered prayers. We must recognize Jesus as Lord and surrender ourselves before him. Some people desire the miracle, but they do not desire the relationship. They seek the hand of God, but they do not want to know the heart of God. The man in John 9 received much more than physical sight. He received the opportunity to behold Christ and worship him. Today, you may not be facing physical blindness, but there may be an area of your life surrounded by darkness. Perhaps you cannot see a way out of the problems in your family. Perhaps the future seems confusing. Perhaps pain has prevented you from recognizing that God is still present. Perhaps disappointment has darkened your hope. There are moments when our eyes are open, but our souls cannot see. We see difficulties, but we do not see the care of God. We see closed doors, but we do not see the paths he is preparing. We see our mistakes, but we cannot behold grace. We see our weakness, but we forget the power of Christ. Perhaps you have also been defined by a limitation, just like this man. Perhaps people have looked at you and said, "He cannot do it. She will never change. This situation has no solution." Perhaps they have reduced your identity to a mistake, a loss, an illness, or a difficult season. But Jesus does not see you only through the lens of your problem. He sees a life in which the works of God can be revealed. The world may say, "There is the blind man," but Jesus says, "There is someone who will see the light." The world may say, "There is a failure," but Jesus says, "There is someone who can be restored." The world may say, "That story is over," but Jesus says, "My work is only beginning." The central question of John 9 is not merely whether our eyes function, but whether we can recognize the presence of Christ. The Pharisees saw the healed man, heard his testimony, and witnessed the evidence of the miracle. Even so, they chose to remain in unbelief. Spiritual blindness is not always a lack of information. Often it is resistance to the truth. It is possible to be near the things of God and still not truly know God. It is possible to attend religious places, repeat words of faith, and know Bible passages while keeping the heart closed to compassion, humility, and love. True spiritual vision is born when we allow Jesus to confront our judgments, heal our hardness, and illuminate our understanding. It teaches us to look at people with mercy. It helps us see beyond appearances. It allows us to understand that no one should be reduced to their pain or their past. When Christ opens our eyes, we begin to see opportunities where we once saw only obstacles. We see purpose in the middle of struggle. We recognize grace in the smallest details. We realize that God was working even on the days when we thought we were completely alone. Perhaps for a long time, you have been walking like that man before he reached the pool, unable to see the answer, but sustained only by the voice of Jesus. You continue obeying, even without understanding. You continue praying, even without seeing change. You continue walking, even when everything around you appears dark. Do not despise this journey. The man was not healed when the disciples discussed his condition. He was not healed when people tried to find someone to blame. The transformation happened when he heard the voice of Jesus and obeyed. Continue walking toward the place where Christ is leading you. Perhaps there is still mud over your eyes. Perhaps the miracle is not yet visible, but the voice that called you is faithful. When the water touched the man's eyes, the darkness that had lasted his entire life lost its power. One command from Jesus was enough to bring years of limitation to an end. What had seemed impossible from birth became a testimony in a single day. In the same way, no darkness is too old for the power of Christ. No pain is too deeply rooted. No story is permanently lost when Jesus decides to touch it. Perhaps you have spent many years unable to see your own worth. Perhaps you believed the negative words spoken over you. Perhaps you became accustomed to remaining on the margins, waiting only for small coins of attention, affection, or recognition. But Christ can give you new vision. He can help you see that your identity is not found in what you lacked, but in what God desires to accomplish within you. He can show you that your worth does not depend on the approval of others. He can reveal that there is a purpose greater than the pain that marked your story. The climax of this passage does not happen only when the man's eyes are opened. The most powerful scene happens when he kneels before Jesus and says, "Lord, I believe." The greatest miracle was not seeing the sky, the streets, or his own face reflected in the water. The greatest miracle was recognizing the Son of God. May this also become our declaration. Even when we do not understand everything, may we be able to say, "Lord, I believe." Even when we are questioned, may we say, "I do not have every answer, but I know what Christ has done in me." Even when people try to erase our testimony, may this certainty remain alive within our hearts. I was blind, and now I see. I could not see hope, but now I see it. I could not see purpose, but now I see it. I did not understand the love of God, but now I see it. I lived trapped in guilt, but now I see grace. I believed I was alone, but now I see that Jesus was always near. John 9 teaches us that the worst blindness is not the inability to see the world, but the inability to recognize the light when it stands before us. The healed man opened his eyes to creation, but the Pharisees closed their hearts to the Creator. Therefore, ask God today, Lord, open my eyes, not only the eyes of my body, but the eyes of my soul. Help me see as you see. Deliver me from hasty judgment. Heal my unbelief. Show me your presence in the areas where I can only see darkness. Give me courage to obey your voice, even when I still cannot see the path. Perhaps the world knows you by what happened to you, but after encountering Jesus, your story can become known by what he has done. The man in John 9 began the day as someone who begged for alms and ended it worshiping the Son of God. He began surrounded by people discussing his guilt and ended before the one who offered him grace. He began unable to see the road and ended by beholding the light of the world himself. This is the message that remains. Jesus still finds people in the middle of darkness. He still touches wounds no one else can heal. He still calls by name those whom society has reduced to labels. He still opens eyes, restores identities, and transforms lives into testimonies. May we also, at the end of our journey, look back at everything Christ has done and say with faith, gratitude, and tears in our eyes, I was blind, but now I see. I see that God did not abandon me. I see that grace was greater than my past. I see that the light of Christ is stronger than any darkness. I see that my life has purpose. I see that Jesus is Lord. And because I see, I choose to believe. Because I believe, I choose to obey. And because I obey, I choose to walk every day in the light of the one who forever transformed my story. If this message has spoken to your heart, leave a like so that more people can be reached by the Word of God. Share in the comments what touched you most in this reflection and how this teaching can transform your walk with Christ. Subscribe to Daily Walk with Jesus to continue receiving biblical reflections, inspiring teachings, and messages that strengthen your faith every day. May God bless your life and your family.